Hey guys, this is Amber from the Happy Caravan. I'm a mom of 10 kids and we live in New York City. And today I'm going to give you some life updates. Somebody asked in the comments, they're like, are you pregnant? So I'm just gonna put that one out there. So we found out back in April that we were pregnant with our, hopefully 11th baby. I've had some miscarriages, you know. So, you know, you never know for sure, you know, if the baby's gonna make it or not. And it seemed like we were pregnant and we were super excited, and it seemed like everything was going really well. We went to the 12-week sonogram. Today, I'm going to the doctor, sorry for the honking, because I think we're gonna have another baby, which is really exciting. So I'm gonna get a sonogram. I think I'm about like 12 weeks along. So come with me. Headed, I'm not sure where, I have to walk now. Now I know why New Yorkers walk fast. It's easy to get lost, and I'm late, so it's 11:27. I'm supposed to be there technically I was supposed to be there 15 minutes early. My appointment's at 11:30, so yeah, I hope they still see me. Here we go. Across the street is the hospital I'm supposed to be going to, and it is 11:30. So made it. This is floor 2M. This is where I'm supposed to be. I'm not actually, well, I'm actually getting to the elevator for floor 2M. So I haven't made it yet, but I think we'll make it. 2M, here we are. It's our fetal evaluation unit, and here we go. So they saw me, even though I was a little late. Very nice of them. And they got my pictures. Here's baby. So, yeah, I hope everything's okay, and I think they're just kind of checking, and hopefully the baby sticks around. You know, I mean, it's never a given that that if you're pregnant you're gonna have a baby. And I remember when I was like in college, I had a friend that was an Orthodox Jew, and like he was, you know, he and his wife were gonna have a baby, and I was like, oh, mazel tov, you know, because that's what you say, you know, in the Jewish culture. But like, he's like, we don't say that until after the baby's born. So now that I've had some miscarriages and so forth, I'm like, oh, I understand. Anyway, so now I'm on my way back home. Elevators. Nobody near me. Okay, so I went out a different exit than I came in, so now let's see if I can actually find my way back to the subway. So we made it. Here is my subway station. Here is, for reference, Columbus Circle. That's why they call this the Columbus Circle station, I guess. I found my train. So I made it home. Time to show the kids the pictures.
Is this the one from today? Or
Yes, this is the one from today.
How big is it?
See, that's the baby in mommy's tummy.
Definitely
That
looks bigger
exciting?
than that. I can't wait.
And everything seemed to be going well with that. And then I went to my 15-week appointment, and this happened. I went to my second appointment for baby, so hopefully everything goes well. Of course, as usual, I'm walking to the subway. Okay, so I just went to the doctor, and unfortunately they didn't hear a heartbeat. I'm 15 weeks along, so I don't know if that means the baby's not alive anymore, or if they just can hear the heartbeat. So she said to schedule me for a sonogram, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess if the baby's not alive, they're supposed to go into labor naturally in like 2 weeks or so. So I guess either way, I'll know pretty soon. I'm just praying baby's okay. So I'm just not sure what's happening. The doctor basically said, oh, you can go to the emergency room, you know, and you can find out, you know, what's going on with the baby, if the baby's alive or not alive. And so I'm just like, oh, I've just been in limbo. I haven't gone to the emergency room. I think she was supposed to schedule a sonogram, but I actually have a sonogram, like the 20-week sonogram, scheduled for July 20th. And I just got a notification that my sonogram, probably the one that she's scheduling to see if the baby's okay, is not until August like 5th or something. So yeah, so I guess there's just a lack of sonograms. I mean, part of what I think is going on is like I've just heard the news like about China and so forth, like they're shutting down a lot of their maternity hospitals because there's just like a lot of people are not interested in having kids there anymore. And so we like obviously in New York City, it's just not one of those like let's have a kid cities. So anyway, there's not a lot of availability for the sonograms and so forth. I guess there's something called a missed miscarriage where your body is the placenta is still kind of sending signals to your body saying we're pregnant, even if the baby has passed away. So obviously I'm hoping that's not the case. I feel fat. Like my tummy is big and my veins are bad, which is always the case, but I don't know if that's like, you know, just the signals of the hormones or if the baby's actually okay. I'm just in limbo. Like, you know, up until 12 weeks, I feel really, really sick. And so I'm like, okay, I'm definitely pregnant because I feel so sick. And then up to, you know, basically like the 20-week mark, like from 12 to 20 weeks, I don't feel sick and the baby's not big enough to feel. Like, I guess at 15 weeks, the baby is like the size of an apple or something. So, I mean, I don't even know how they are even supposed to hear that heartbeat anyway, but I mean, it's like just so tiny. And so like, you know, you don't feel those limbs kicking and so forth until at least 18 to 20 weeks, and I'm just not there yet. I'm supposed to be 16 weeks. Like, I haven't had contractions. I haven't had like that, like, okay, this, you know, is going to be I've had miscarriages. I mean, not this late, but, you know, I've had a you know, number of miscarriages, and you feel it. You feel like your body's like, I'm done, you know? So I don't know what's going on. I'm just praying the baby's okay. But of course I'll let you know. And then secondly, the other update I want to give you guys is the Juilliard audition. So last year, 7 of our kids auditioned for Juilliard. Our 2 oldest kids auditioned for college at Juilliard. And the next 5 youngest auditioned for Juilliard Pre-College, which is basically a Saturday program, but it's a very, very sought after program. It's really good. There's a music theory and chamber music and lessons and just a camaraderie of like this excellence of music, you know. So one of the reasons why we moved to New York City was for Juilliard, and not just Juilliard. There's the Manhattan School of Music, and there's the new school, Mann School of Music. I just learned about that one. So there's just a lot going on here, and then you know, I made a kind of a longer video about it, but it just seemed like just every city we moved to, we were in San Diego, then we moved to San Francisco. Now we're here because it just seemed like, just in the other cities, it just seemed like there was a cap on what the kids were able to accomplish as far as classical music goes. And here it's like, it's particularly the East Coast, it's everything. Everything that classical music has to offer is here, and it does seem like, I don't feel like classical music is dying, but I do feel like it's consolidating. And like even Gustav Dudamel, I guess, who is the famous conductor from Venezuela, who ended up, he was the Los Angeles Philharmonic conductor. He really took the world by storm, and now he's going to come to the New York Philharmonic. I don't know if it's 2026, but I remember seeing that announcement. I'm like, wow. I mean, it does seem like that, particularly New York is just this like hub of classical music. Like, we're at Trader Joe's and there's people walking around Trader Joe's with like a cello on their back. Like, that's just the culture of this city, and it seems to be, instead of dying, it seems to be expanding. And so that's why we're here, just because we wanted there to be no cap. Like, the kids can go as far as they want to in classical music. So anyway, so the auditions. So what ended up happening was Chloe, who is our 9-year-old violinist, she got accepted.
I'm pleased to inform you that you've been accepted.
Yay! And Elijah, our 17-year-old cellist, and Anna, our 11-year-old cellist, did not get accepted. And that's really sad for us. Of course, we were all like just crying.
Yeah.
So hard this time. you worked really hard. But I'm so happy. It's so hard because these results come all in at once. So, you know, you're so happy for the kid that got in, and you're like, it's just, you feel the pain for the ones that didn't, and they really, really tried. Last year, you know, Elijah was a big fish in a little pond in San Francisco, and I just don't know if he gave the audition its full, you know, gusto last year when he auditioned for pre-college. This year, he gave it everything he had. I mean, all the stops, he tried so hard. And I feel like the same for Anna, but especially Elijah. Elijah really tried, you know, and so it's just because he's older. So, and you know, an older kid, there's just more understanding of like what you want to do when you're with yourself, and he really loves music. I mean, all the kids would love to be professional musicians. You know, I'm preparing them for the reality that not a lot of people can make it as professional musicians, and so you definitely need to branch out. But with a lot of, for instance, my son Josiah, he got accepted to Manhattan School of Music. He did not get accepted to Juilliard, but he did get accepted to Manhattan School of Music, and you know, he loves music. He's gotten so much better. It's just so exciting to see him grow. But he wants to maybe do law, and you can do music as an undergrad, and then as a postgraduate, you can do a lot of other things. You can get you know, masters of business. You can do law. There's a lot of options. So it's not like, you know, I mean, unless you're doing something in medicine or, you know, something, you don't necessarily, there's not a specific undergraduate degree you need. So you might as well, you know, do music, because I just, some of the other degrees seem a little bit, like a bit of a, like, I don't want to say a waste of time, because I know I'll get flack for that, but, you know, they seem like it's kind of like a lot of busy work, you know, without something that you get to come out on the other side with like a bunch of, like, a skill. And so I feel like Josiah still gets the humanities, he still gets a lot of the, like, philosophy and all the stuff they would teach you in, like, another degree, but he comes out, like, being able to play music amazingly. And then he can go on to law school or whatever else he wants to do. So that's, anyway, so that's, Anna too was super bummed out. It's just, it's so hard, but we went into this knowing that it was a long shot. So basically, Elijah's teacher said, you know, they don't accept a lot of seniors, and Elijah's going to be a senior this next year. And then Anna's teacher was like, you know, they don't usually accept younger kids, you know, I guess for the cello program. It seems that they do seem to accept younger kids in the violin program maybe more easily, but it seems like in the cello program, just from watching on the stage in the orchestra, I did see a lot of look like younger violinists in the orchestra, but not a lot of younger cellists. And the way they fill in places, there were only 4 spots this year. And the way they fill in those spots is basically there's a younger kid orchestra and there's kind of an older kid orchestra. And if they have room there, if the teachers have room in their studios, there's a spot. If there's not room in the orchestra, if there's not room in teacher's studio, no spot. So there were 4 spots available, and we were basically told it's a long shot. And we knew it was a long shot. But, I mean, you just gotta go for it anyway. And so I do feel like, you know, the kids are learning a valuable skill even through rejection. Obviously, if you're audition for something, you get it, it's like, wow, that's great. It teaches you to, like, shoot for the stars, you know. But I do feel like even Elijah and Anna, who did not get in this year, learned a really good lesson too. I mean, to be able to bounce back from the rejection of not being accepted is a life skill, and I think it will help them throughout their life. I mean, there are no 8th place trophies, you know. I mean, it's like there's only so many spots, there's only so many houses for sale, there's only so many positions. It's just, that is, for instance, this is preparing them for the music world. There was 1 spot at the San Diego Symphony. Oh, we just know this because one of our cello teachers back in San Diego worked for the San Diego Symphony. There was 1 spot for, I don't know if it was assistant principal, violinist or what, something like that. Anyway, so 200 people showed up for this audition. And there was 1 spot. So, you know, that is the law of the land. It's the way the world works. It's the way the classical music world works. And a lot of times you see these people that, you know, like a lot of times I go to the pediatrician and they're like, oh yeah, I studied music as a kid, or you know, oh, I went to college for music. Like our ENT in San Francisco, he went to Yale. He was like a double major for music and for I think biology, and he ended up going into being a ear, nose, and throat surgeon. But I think, you know, until that time, he wasn't really sure what he was going to do. So it seems like a lot of times the rigmarole of being a classical musician and the agony of trying out for things and being rejected and trying again, and you know, that I think really sets you up for life. That's just the way life works. And I do feel like there's so much potential in the kids. I feel like the future is beautiful and wide open for them, even with this rejection. One thing you see in classical music a lot of times is that a lot of times only wins are posted, you know? So like, I've just been really open about our journey, and the kids are fine with it. You know, I've been like, hey, is it okay if I share? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. So, you know, I share with permission, you know, but a lot of times in the classical music world, only wins are posted. And, you know, that's just, it gives, I think, parents kind of coming up in the ranks, or kids coming up in the ranks, it gives them kind of an unnatural view of the landscape. It's not an easy, it's not an easy hobby, you know. There's not a lot of spots, and there's, you know, it's kind of dog eat dog, and you know, you just have to be prepared for that. And the kids are learning now, and I think that's really good. Anyway, so future plans. Elijah is looking towards college. He was able to have a lesson with his, you know, teacher. Well, so Richard Aaron is, he's a really good cello teacher, but he's really a lot of demand, and so he doesn't have a lot of time. So when he can, he meets with Elijah for a lesson, and Elijah was able to have a lesson with him. Usually Elijah studies with Leo Singer, who's somebody that Richard Aaron has taught all of his skills to, and so he's, you know, studied with Leo a lot and learned so much, and really good experience. So with Richard, you know, Richard was like, and also Leo, they're like, you know, don't freak out about pre-college. Really turn your sights toward college, because there's not a lot of, sometimes it's even harder to get into pre-college than it is to get into college, which is funny because you think Juilliard College, like, oh, that's so hard to get into, but honestly, sometimes pre-college is harder to get into. I've heard this from many sources, and I'm like, how is that possible? I think part of what's going on is that there are a lot of parents and kids, you know, that are really interested in getting into Ivy League schools. For instance, Elijah's teacher, Richard Aaron, he taught, I think he taught 4 pre-college cellists one year, and all 4 of them got accepted to Harvard. So a lot of times parents and kids are interested in having just that extra something on their transcript that opens up doors for them at these Ivy League schools, because the pressure and the difficulty of getting into those schools is so high, especially now that they've eliminated the SAT as a requirement and so forth. It's like you have to be really extra special. And so when you're competing in pre-college, you're not only just competing against other kids that want to be musicians, you're for their, you know, for their livelihood. You're also competing against, you know, this a lot of parents and students who are interested in being more appealing to an Ivy League university, and it seems like it works. Like, you know, to have 4 out of 4 go to Harvard is pretty impressive. So anyway, so, you know, with a grain of salt, I mean, I am so, like sometimes it's like, it's easy to look at like what didn't go right and not be like, wow, you know, like, it's amazing, you know, that 4 of our kids are able to go to a school that's really hard to get into, right? Like Chloe being in there now, 4 of our kids are going to be at Juilliard. And even though Josiah didn't get accepted to Juilliard, Manhattan School of Music is a really good school, and he sounds so good now, and I'm like, I don't know what they're doing to him, but he sounds really good. So, you know, it's like, just because something doesn't go as planned doesn't mean that God doesn't have another Avenue, and that was one of our main interests in going to New York. I mean, for instance, you know, we could have gone to like Philadelphia in hopes that everyone goes to Curtis, but Curtis is even harder to get into, and it's just, you know, there aren't the, as far as I know, there aren't the other options that New York offers. I mean, like being able to have 3 really good conservatories, you know, just a subway ride away is like, I don't know of another city in America that has that opportunity. So that's why we're here. Because yes, there's obviously there's that Ivy League level Juilliard, but then there's other schools that are easier to get into but still have really top-notch teaching. I mean, this is just a city where there's just a lot of music, classical music. Like when we were going trick-or-treating at Halloween, we were, it was at the Upper West Side. There's like the street that they make fun for Halloween trick-or-treating, and so we were going up and down the street, and there were these 2 opera singers, and they were like dressed up, and they were like singing opera like really well, you know. And then recently we had the opportunity to film something for ABC Nightline. I'll tell you what's happening with that later. But so the producer, her name is Claire, her son is in like a private school, and so like this school is like so interesting. Like it has like these musical theater programs, and she showed me some footage of her son singing, and it's just like amazing. Like she was recounting to me how, you know, there's just so much talent in this city that, you know, when you have a musical theater program, there's just so many skilled people that are around to like run this thing. And I mean, it was like a, you know, Broadway stage production, and it's like little kids. I was like so impressed. So just like, because there's just so much around here, you know, you're gonna be able to find really good teachers here. I remember in San Diego, like just finding a good teacher was like so hard, you know. And so here it's just, it's like, it's a lot easier to find good musicians, good teachers, just the camaraderie of like, you know, we were all into this classical music weird stuff. It's definitely a community. I mean, it's something like that I don't even understand. Like my kids, like I listen to a lot of praise and worship Christian music, you know, and like they're really into classical music. Like they just want to listen to classical music. Some of this stuff that's a little, even for me, sorry, I'm not that cultured, it's a little hard for me to listen to, like the Stravinsky and this and that. Like I'm like, okay, that's a little bit too dissonant for me. They love it. They absolutely love it. So they just, they're more cultured than their mother, and I'm proud of them for being so. Okay, so update number 3 is Mark found a job. I'm so excited. He was always been looking for work. He was trying to work from home, but when you, to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a lot of different things. You have to be a salesman. You have to be a bill collector. And you have to have the skill. So Mark, he has the skills. He's very good at what he does. He does graphic design. He has a really good understanding of, you know, computer programs and all this stuff. It just, and 3-dimensional art. Like he worked for a sign company in San Diego. Just his understanding of all this stuff is like really high. But he's not good at selling himself, and he's not good at bill collecting. And so even if he does get the job, you know, sometimes people just won't pay him, and it's like, ugh. So New York used to be a place of manufacturing. It used to be like factories, all these like lofts in Soho. They used to be, you know, now they're like worth millions, but those used to be old factories. Like there were factories here. Then artists took them over and had like galleries and this and that. And then rich people are like, oh, these like, you know, 20-foot ceilings, this is nice, and big windows in, you know, downtown Manhattan, this is nice. So anyway, so obviously that the culture of what's happened in those warehouses in Soho has changed a lot. But also, you know, West Side Story was the story of how the Puerto Ricans, well, it's like a Romeo and Juliet type story, but the background of it, Maria's family they are Puerto Rican immigrants, and they are working at a clothing factory. That's what was happening. You know, they've got like San Juan Hill and also Spanish Harlem. I think that's what they I don't know if they called it back then, but they call it that now. You know, were places where Puerto Rican immigrants came, and they came specifically to work in the garment industry. There were factories all over the city, but nowadays, that's just, you know, there's no room for that. That factories are not really like industry as far as like creating things. Here it's just not, there's not room for that. It's too small of an island, it's in too high of demand. So I would, you know, what Mark used to do when he worked at a place called Integrated Sign in San Diego was, you know, they had a big, huge router table. This was in El Cajon, so it was actually kind of a suburb of San Diego where a lot of manufacturing happened, where there was room for these big warehouses and big router tables, and you know, they did a lot of the manufacturing. They were, you know, the regulations were like less as far as like they were able to use, you know, automotive paint and so forth, things that you probably would have a harder time to get a permit for in this, you know, San Diego proper. So you know, we're just like, oh, you know, we're not gonna find anything like that here, you know. So, but you know, Mark did some searching, and he found a place. It's called ASI Signs, and they don't make the signs there. It's actually a company based in Texas, which is obviously more manufacturing friendly for both its size and regulation wise. But there's like this 7 like person office in like by Herald Square, kind of like where the Macy's is. So they offered him a job, and we're just like, wow, that's so exciting, because it's basically what he did before at Integrated Sign minus the like actual manufacturing part. So the manufacturing is done probably in Texas, or you know, somewhere where manufacturing is done, and then you know, it's delivered to the various places. And I'm not exactly sure what he's doing, but he's able to take his expertise in having created signs in the past, different buildings and so forth, and the buildings where the signs go and so forth. Anyway, so I'm actually not sure what he does, but he does something with signs and the way signs are built and where they're placed in buildings, and he has a job, and I'm so excited. My original intention was, okay, I will try and make enough money on social media to like pay the bills and also afford some training for him. He was gonna do some fire system design training, like where you design how sprinklers go into buildings and so forth, which he would be very good at, I'm sure. Something he could have done from home potentially, but it required training, it required a different laptop, it required, you know, expensive software, and just stuff where like we just need a job now. So and I think it's better, because one thing about, you know, if you work from home, you're always at work. You know what I mean? So it's nice for him to just be able to go to the place, work, come home, and then he just gets to be dad, and he's not worried about like some deadline or whatever. So in a way, I feel like that's gonna be good. It's only been half a week, and we are still getting our sea legs around here, because I mean, he was super helpful around here, and I'm doing more of the cooking and more of that stuff. So anyway, oh, and the Night Lane show. So I was kind of waiting to give some of these updates, because like the Nightline show is going to give some of these updates. But what happened with Nightline show was it was supposed to air like around the 9th or 10th of June, but we kept I kept getting pushed back. First of all, it was the Trump news. We were Trump by Trump. Obviously, he's more of a celebrity than we are. So he got to, you know, be the he got his Nightline show. And then after that was kind of Juneteenth, and then after this, I guess they have a lot of Pride programming they need to put out there because for the month. So our show is supposed to be airing sometime in July. Of course, we're in communication with the producer, so I will definitely put something on the community tab. But anyway, thanks for being here for our journey. Thank you for all your support and love, and I just especially with this community, you know, I just feel really connected, and I just want to just let everybody know what's happening. And of course, I'll keep you guys posted. I'm definitely praying that baby's okay, and I'll just, you know, I mean, it's like I could go to the emergency room and obviously have some like hope of like, okay, everything's okay, but at the same time, it's like, you know, if something could be okay today but not tomorrow. And I've been to the emergency room before when I've, you know, been in the middle of a miscarriage, and basically they're like, if your baby's okay, they're like, oh, baby's okay. if baby's not okay, they're like, looks like you're having a miscarriage, and there's nothing they can really do for you unless you're like hemorrhaging or something like, you know, terrible like that. So, but I'm not really seeing any signs of that right now. So I'm just praying baby's okay, and of course appreciate your prayers, and thank you for all of your support.